When humanity first entered the stars, they were laughed at, dismissed as naive dreamers clinging to broken technology. But beneath the ridicule, humans hid something darker. Something no one ever saw coming. As the most powerful fleets of the galaxy celebrated their own superiority, Earth's shadow crept closer. And when it finally moved, the galaxy realized it had been blind all along. When humanity first breached the void of space, they were treated as little more than a cosmic curiosity. Newcomers to the ancient halls of the Galactic Council, the humans were seen as fragile, chaotic, and comically underprepared. Their ships, clunky by galactic standards, moved with a primitive awkwardness. Their weapons, relics compared to plasma lances and graviton cannons, seemed laughably crude. At first, humanity tried to blend in, to learn, to grow. They offered their minor advancements, atmospheric recyclers, nanotech bandages, AI-assisted agriculture, but the offers were met with polite nods and hidden smiles. Behind closed doors, they were ridiculed. Whispers filled the gilded halls. Let the children play at being explorers. Perhaps in 1,000 years, they'll finally matter. The hegemony, the dominant military alliance of the sector, was the worst of all. Their grand admirals, beings bred over millennia for war, would sneer at the sight of human envoys. Their reports, sent back to the thrones of power, carried only dismissive remarks. Earth's primitives pose no threat. But while the galaxy laughed, Earth worked. Beneath their cities, hidden within hollowed asteroids, and buried under the oceans, humanity was building. Not fleets of shining cruisers like the hegemony. Not vast swarms like the insectoid collectives. No. They built shadows. Scientists labored in secret. Engineers experimented in silence. Thinkers, soldiers, and visionaries united under a single whispered goal. Make them regret their laughter. Projects were abandoned. Doctrines were rewritten. Where others sought strength in overwhelming force, humanity sought victory in invisibility. Not just cloaking, true absence. Not just silent running, complete erasure. While the Council debated treaties and polished their obsolete pride, humanity developed what no other species dared even dream: true stealth. The first prototypes, battered, unreliable, failed spectacularly. Entire test crews vanished into black holes. Experimental drives tore themselves apart. But humans, stubborn as stone, persisted. Year after year. Generation after generation. In hidden academies, they raised new tacticians, ones who thought like predators, not politicians. In secret shipyards, they birthed monstrous shapes, designed not to be seen but to unsee themselves. By the time humanity petitioned for full council membership, the first operational model, the HCS Prowler, already lurked among the stars. Watching. Waiting. The galaxy never noticed. They were too busy laughing. And humanity smiled back. Because soon, the joke would be over. The inevitable dominance cruised smoothly through the blackness of space, its engines humming with the subtle elegance only millennia of technology could afford. A vessel of unmatched power and size, its hull gleamed under the stars, casting an ominous shadow over the expanse. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with contempt and superiority. Grand Admiral Vexler stood tall on the command deck, his eyes narrowing in disdain as he observed the human diplomatic vessel approaching. It was small, inconspicuous, and so utterly beneath the hegemony's notice that its mere presence felt like a joke. "Prepare the docking bay," Vexler commanded, flicking his dorsal spines in amusement. "Let's see what pathetic demonstration they've arranged for us this time." The bridge officers barely concealed their mockery, whispering amongst themselves about the grand spectacle they were about to witness. They were all certain of one thing: this would be nothing more than another failed attempt to impress. After all, what could the humans possibly offer to a civilization that had mastered the stars? Ambassador Chun, calm and collected as always, stood at the forefront, flanked by her small but capable delegation. She was well aware of the sneers and laughter that greeted humanity wherever they went, but she wore it as a badge of honor. She was the ambassador to the stars, representing Earth's future in a galaxy that had long deemed humanity as little more than a joke. The inevitable dominance docked with the human vessel, and the airlock hissed open with an almost ceremonial finality. Chen's team disembarked, stepping onto the bridge of the hegemony flagship. The crew of the inevitable dominance looked on with barely veiled disgust, sizing them up with sneering eyes. The humans, with their crude attire, pale faces, and strange mannerisms, were nothing but a reminder of the past. A reminder of the days when the galaxy was young and humanity was nothing more than a single, insignificant speck. "Welcome to our ship," Vexler said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I trust your demonstration is prepared?" Chin gave a respectful nod, but the flicker of determination in her eyes was unmistakable. She knew this moment was coming, knew that everything humanity had worked for, everything they had sacrificed, would be judged here. Everything is in place, Grand Admiral, Chun replied smoothly, her voice unwavering despite the immense pressure. If I may, I would like to take you to the observation deck. Vexler raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. What could a race so young possibly show that would impress him? But the eagerness to see them fail overcame his curiosity. Lead the way. As they made their way to the observation deck, the deck crew exchanged uneasy glances. Something felt different. The humans seemed calm, almost too calm, considering the sheer weight of the situation. But Vexler dismissed the thought, they were simply nervous. After all, they had no reason to think their humble fleet could rival the might of the hegemony. The group reached the observation window, and Vexler spread his forearms out dramatically, showcasing the vastness of space before them. The Earth and surrounding space stretched out in the distance, peaceful and tranquil, a stark contrast to the tension inside the ship. Here we are, Ambassador, Vexler said. The coordinates. What is this demonstration of yours? Chun smiled enigmatically. All in good time, Admiral. With a subtle motion, she gestured to a human officer, who stepped forward and activated a small communication device on his wrist. Operation Phantom. Execute. The crew tensed, expecting something grand, something truly spectacular. But nothing happened. There was no explosion of light, no burst of energy, no dramatic display to announce the arrival of humanity's latest weapon. Vexler and his officers exchanged amused glances, their amusement growing by the second. Is this it? Vexler sneered. This is the grand display? Then, as if on cue, every alarm on the inevitable dominance screamed to life. The bridge was instantly flooded with the shrill wail of warning signals, and officers scrambled to identify the cause. Panic began to set in, and Vexler's commanding presence faltered, his spines flaring outwards in confusion. What is it? He demanded, his voice rising. Energy spike, sir. Came the frantic reply from the sensor officer. It's coming from directly in front of us. It's impossible. The officers at the tactical console stared in disbelief. A moment ago, the space in front of them had been empty, pure vacuum. But now it was as if space itself had ripped open. Something was materializing, something enormous and terrifying. From the tear in space, a massive vessel began to form, its shape more a shadow than a solid object. Black as the void, its angles seemed to bend light around it, making it appear as though it were barely there, as if it existed in two dimensions at once. The Prowler, humanity's first stealth dreadnought, emerged from the void, looming larger and more terrifying than anything the hegemony had ever seen. The ship was a behemoth, nearly twice the size of the inevitable dominance. Its jagged silhouette seemed to swallow the stars around it, and its hull absorbed light, casting an unnatural darkness across the space around them. The inevitable dominance appeared puny in comparison, dwarfed by the sheer scale of the human vessel. The Prowler was no longer a myth, no longer a rumor whispered in corners of galactic taverns. It was real. And it was staring down the hegemony's finest. Weapons systems, Vexler ordered, his voice trembling with a fear he could not suppress. What are they doing? Multiple target locks, sir. The tactical officer stammered. Weapons are charging, they're ready to fire. The bridge fell silent. The Prowler had been tracking them for days, following their every move, studying their defenses, their communication patterns. But the inevitable dominance had never detected a thing. What is this sorcery? Vexler hissed, his mind racing. The human admiral, standing beside Ambassador Chun, turned toward him with a slight, knowing smile. Allow me to introduce the HCS Prowler, Admiral. Humanity's first stealth dreadnought. It's been following your ship since you entered the Sol system. We've been observing you, analyzing your ship's weaknesses, and studying your every move, all while remaining completely undetected. The words were a dagger in Vexler's mind. We were right behind you, the Admiral continued, his voice calm and collected. Every move you made, we were there, silently watching. And now, Admiral, we've made our point. Vexler's spines flattened against his body. His heart raced in his chest as he stared at the Prowler, its silent, looming presence rewriting everything he thought he knew about warfare. The balance of power in the sector had shifted in an instant. Chun stepped forward, her gaze piercing, her voice firm. Humans evolved as pursuit predators, Admiral. We learned to wait, to observe, to learn. We knew we couldn't match the hegemony in sheer firepower, so we found another way. You laughed at us. You mocked our technology. But we didn't develop stealth because it was possible. We developed it because you believed it was impossible. The Prowler loomed closer, its weapon systems fully charged, each one capable of devastating destruction. Yet, it held its fire, as if waiting for Vexler to understand the gravity of the situation. This, Chun continued, is what humanity can do when we are underestimated. Vexler's mind reeled, his arrogance shattered. For the first time in his career, he was confronted with something he couldn't control, something he couldn't anticipate. The Prowler was not just a weapon.
It was a statement.
About that Technology Exchange Committee position, Chun said, her voice colder now. Perhaps it's time you reconsidered your opinion of humanity. Vexler, crushed by the weight of his own ignorance, lowered his head in reluctant acceptance. His next words came out in a whisper, I will advocate for your immediate inclusion, Ambassador. As the humans departed, Vexler remained at the view screen, staring at the Prowler as it silently drifted in the void. The laughter of the Council echoed in his mind, but now the galaxy's greatest military power was the one laughing, and it wasn't humanity's laughter that filled the silence. It was the sound of victory.
Liked the story?
Hit subscribe and stay tuned, because humanity's journey has only just begun.